when I first started going, the race mixture was quite different. I think they had one African American correctional officer, and there's a large Caucasian population there. But during the 60s and the 70s, as I mentioned, with the proliferation of the gangs in the Chicago area, the place started filling up with a whole lot of blacks, and I saw the difference over the years in the population.
System. We're talking about the fact that most suspects in high-level criminal cases, or at least a disproportionate number of suspects, tend to be African American. We're talking about a criminal justice system where we have, and we all know it, where there's racial profiling. We're talking about a criminal justice system where we know that prosecutors don't hesitate to take people off of juries because of their color and the perceptions that prosecutors have about what people of color how they'll react in terms of being a juror, a quote-unquote all-white jury. And that, if nothing else, sends a really bad message. Is that a good representative portion of our society and our culture to have all white juries, in particular in certain portions of the state? It really makes the system look bad. Hundreds, literally hundreds, of African American men were tortured in Chicago by the Chicago Police Department. And the history of that torture started in the early 1980s with the murder of a police officer, a Chicago police officer. A very sad and horrible thing. But what it led to was equally sad and horrible. The torture of African American suspects over years and years, again leading to terrible distrust of the police, a distrust of the criminal justice system, prosecutors being forced to make decisions if this was something that they were going to support or turn a blind eye to, or if they were going to stand up to it. Very often a blind eye was turned, and they actually were called as witnesses. Prosecutors were called as witnesses to validate the so-called absence of torture. One of my clients was tortured. Ronnie Kitchen was tortured. And I recall the prosecutor testifying in that case. He didn't see anything unusual about his physical appearance. And that's really sad for our system, that there's this kind of disingenuousness that is built in. So racism certainly out of Chicago has been a problem. And there are any number of other anecdotal stories, some of which I've been in cases where really remarkably bad things have happened in terms of race. But I have no question that it continues to be a problem. Why? Because it reflects our society. And if we say that race is not a problem in our society, then I think we're really being naive or dishonest, frankly. And so if it's a problem in our society, why would it not be a problem in the criminal justice system? Of course it is.
If my lawyer would have the money, or if it was a rich person, I would buy justice. I would provide every single expert on every single thing, and I would prove that I didn't do the crime. There was a fingerprint on that some material near the victim. It was not my fingerprint. It was not my knife. So if I had the means to challenge that, I wouldn't have to spend 5 years in prison. One of the jurors said that when the reporter from the Oregonia interviewed him, what he thought about my case. And that is in the record. That's even, you can go online and look at it. He said that there were too many Mexicans around without nothing to do. People who have nothing to do, they commit crime. So basically, and then he said, I want Santiago to get a death penalty, really. Even when the TV reporter went and interviewed, he asked him about that. He changed it, but that's what he thought. And he wasn't the jury in the trial. And so imagine what else other people are thinking. When you're in a situation like that, you are motivated to see the thing you want to see, not really what you see. And that's an issue with that's a barrier within the system to get justice. And especially if you are people of color. You know, in my trial, now the jury was Mexican. So these people didn't understand.
You know, in addition to that, race plays a huge part in these cases. And the amount of times that you have an all-white jury that's sitting in a courtroom and evaluating evidence that's just gruesome. I mean, that's the other aspect with innocence work, is that because so much of it relies on DNA testing, that requires there be physical evidence. And so you're mainly working on homicide cases, rape cases, violent cases. And so juries are presented with just these horrible facts and horrible crimes, and they want somebody to pay for that. I mean, that's human nature. And in a lot of these cases, and what I've encountered most, I think, is that you have, you know, usually the defendant is the only black man in the courtroom. You have a white judge, a white prosecutor, white defense attorney, white jurors, white victim.
Race, not race, not race. I think, like, I'm gonna say different society groups played a part, cause they're like my society I grew up in. We got a saying called only the strongest lion survive. Basically meaning like stand up for yourself. Basically stand up for yourself. Never let no one get over on you. And be more tougher than the next person. And now I know being more tougher than the next person is not always a good thing. Sometimes you gotta just be able to walk stuff off. But I don't think race had nothing to do with it. I think it's just two different groups from two different areas. Because you a person who ain't never experienced growing up in the ghetto, but know exactly how it is. So when they say jury or your peers, when you go to trial, that to me is that your peers ain't from where you from. That's a bunch of BS. Cause how you gonna be a jury of my peers and you ain't experienced the lifestyle I live? Like you can't be a jury of my peers. That's like me saying I don't know how y'all grew up and raised. Like saying I'm one of y'all peers, but not stand on I'll be one of the jurors, but I don't know what you went through. I can't say I'm your peer. I mean, I ain't experienced what you experienced. I think that jury of your peer, I think that's a bunch of BS.